What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles submitted to the channel by CutlassBoy68839, who's running the latest pseudo-legendary Pokemon in Pokemon Go, Dragapult. Now Dragapult is a ghost and dragon type Pokemon similar to Giratina, but it's a much more attack weighted Pokemon with a stat product similar to Electivire or Salamence, and it has a great moveset with Astonish, which got a huge buff this season, as well as Breaking Swipe and Shadow Ball. You could also run it with Dragon Tail if you wanted to, but I think Astonish, since it is a newly buff move, is a little bit more exciting. But anyways, he's rounding out the team with two meta picks in Licky and Cobalion, and I will be honest, the next time the Ultra League does come around, I want to see some more unique supporting acts rather than the rank 6 and rank 7 Pokemon according to PvPoke for the Ultra League. But this trainer is at least running Shadow Ball plus Solar Beam on the Licky, so that should make for some very entertaining gameplay. So with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What is your favourite pseudo-legendary Pokemon? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, Dragapult into Skeletor. So this is a great lead matchup for us. Look at the Astonish damage. Of course, both Disarming Voice and Shadow Ball will hit for super effective damage up against us, but we can just safely use a shield here. They go for Disarming Voice, and they're going to swap into Ampharos. So we're firing off the Shadow Ball right off the bat. Shadow Ball does connect. It does huge damage, and it puts them into Astonish farm down range. Look at that damage output here. We are now going to wait for the opponent to come in with the next Pokemon. They come in with a Tapu Fini, and once again, not baiting here, full sending the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball connects once again. It does huge damage, and at this point the opponent is recognizing there's nothing they can do there, so they just concede the match. So we had a full 1v3 sweep for Dragapult. Into the next battle, going to see a Clefable in the lead, of course. Much worse lead matchup for us. Going to say swap into our Licky. The opponent fires off a Swift, and then they come in with Feraligatr, and this is exactly why we're running Solar Beam here. Feraligatr, one of the most annoying Pokemon in the Ultra League and the Great League already this season. We are full sending the Solar Beam here. Solar Beam gets the one shot there. Get that Feraligatr off my screen. Shout out to Jamie Finn for that quote there. At this point they come back in with the Clefable. The opponent is going to go straight for a Swift once again. Fine with us. We can now fire off a Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball not going to do as much damage as the Solar Beam just did there, but that's fine. It still does some decent damage there. The opponent going to fire off another charge move. So at this point we're going to no shield. They go for Swift. That actually doesn't take us out there, so they get an extra Fairy Wind to farm us down before a rollout even connects. So that does work out well for the opponent there. But either way, going to come in with our Cobalion, and we're going to call that they're just baiting, and the opponent does fire off a Swift, which is double resisted, by the way. Don't really know why they're baiting, but again, we're going to call that they're baiting, and again, they go for the Swift there. So if Jamie Finn is watching this battle, unfortunately, he's probably dying right now because of all the baits, but either way, we fire off the Stone Edge. Stone Edge grabs the first shield, and again, gonna call a bait. Is it another bait? Yes, it is. Honestly, I don't even know if the opponent is farming up to a potential Moonblast or if they're just firing off Swift after Swift after Swift as soon as they get there. But either way, we are once again gonna no shield, and the opponent again, stop going for Swift. Fire off the other charge move, please. We're now gonna go for a Breaking Swipe here. Breaking Swipe, obviously not gonna do much damage, but actually that's not that bad damage up against a Ultra League Umbreon. So gonna shield this, maybe just trying to fish for a debuff with a Breaking Swipe here. So gonna fire off the next Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe, can we get the debuff? Yes, we're able to do so. At this point, we could actually swap out here, but instead, just going to let the Dragapult go down. Even with a debuff, Dark Pulse does get the KO. We come in with our Cobalion, and this is fine. Opponent is once again going to fire off a charge move. Is it a Swift? Yes, it is a Swift, which means we can just no-shield that, go for a full double-kick farm down, come out with back-to-back Sacred Swords, but we might even go for a BM here if we have the opportunity to. So we go for the Sacred Sword, and you can see the battle clock is coming up there, but it doesn't matter. We go for the BM Stone Edge. Stone Edge gets the KO as the clock hits 0, and we're able to take that game. So into the next battle, we're going to see a Feraligatr in the lead. So of course, Cobalion is our soft response there, so swapping into it. You do typically want to swap into not your hardest answer to the lead Pokemon if you do lose the lead there, just because obviously you're not going to be able to align it to that Pokemon. So maybe if you're able to flip switch advantage, you can then align your harder counter to that Pokemon. But either way, I don't think we're going to flip switch here, but Cobalion is going to soft lose this, and it actually will put Cresselia into quite a nice Astonish farm down range. So going to let the next move go through. Future Sight doesn't quite take us out. Once again, they do put us into one fast move farm down range, but it doesn't really matter. We can come in with the Dragapult here, here. Probably going to shield anyways. They're probably not running Moonblast, but even a Future Sight would do a lot of damage there. They're going to swap back into Feraligatr, but we can fire off a Breaking Swipe first. Breaking Swipe does connect, it drops their attack, and that just means that these Hydro Cannons, they're not going to do much damage whatsoever. And of course, Shadow Claw is going to be double resisted, so this is a very comfortable matchup for us. And with the Breaking Swipe damage, of course, we have put them into range where we can just settle for a Shadow Ball, don't have to full send a Solar Beam this time around. We're going to fire off the Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball will be coming through, it does connect, it actually doesn't get the KO there, but they come in with Cobalion, so going to fire off the Shadow Ball, and hopefully we can swap out at this point, and we can swap there. So we're going to come in with our Dragapult, and at this point, I think we just shield this. Obviously, Stone Edge would do a lot of damage. They full send the Stone Edge there, which means we can now over farm, and we're just going straight Breaking Swipe, fishing for those debuffs here. Breaking Swipe, number 1, grabs the shield, and it does drop their attack. We make it to Breaking Swipe number 2. Breaking Swipe, at this point, I don't think we really need to drop their attack here, as we should very comfortably live a Stone Edge, and both Pokemon in the back are in range where we can just fast move farm them down. So they post swaps into Feraligatr, we get the Astonished farm down. We're actually going to swap into our Licky here, essentially just forcing the opponent to throw their energy on their Cresselia. They go for a Grass Knot, that actually doesn't take us out there, and we're actually not committing to throwing a Charge Move at all. Basically, once again, just forcing them to throw there. If we throw a Charge Move, Cobalion can come in, possibly farm us down and come out with a Charge Move loaded, but because we played it like that, we come out with a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball easily gets the KO from that range, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Talonflame in the lead, so this is a positive matchup for us, and Licky also going to have a great matchup with those double super effective rollouts. Going to shield this, as it could have been a Brave Bird. They just go for a Flame Charge, but that's okay. We're going to fire off one Astonish, and then go for the Breaking Swipe. Not the perfect timing here, but it does make sense because we can do the exact same thing once again. Fire off another Charge Move. Breaking Swipe doesn't quite get the KO there, but we swap into our Licky, catching the Charge Move, and it's just going to be another Flame Charge. So of course, not doing that much damage there. They're going to come in with a Venusaur. We can just sponge this damage here. Licky very bulky, don't need to use the shield there. They go for the Frenzy Plant, and then they swap into Swampert, and this is absolutely huge. We're going straight for Solar Beam once again. Solar Beam gets the one-shot up against the Swampert, and the opponent just concedes the match there. So going into the next battle, we see Golisopod in the lead. So of course, not a great lead matchup for us. Going to say swap into our Cobalion, and the opponent's going to come in with a Donphan. So of course, Donphan typically going to be running Body Slam and Trailblaze, which means we can just spam out these Sacred Swords, and whilst the Monster Saps are hitting for super effective damage, we can actually make it to another Sacred Sword here, and the Charge Moves, if they throw them, they're not going to do that much damage either. So the opponent commits to a full Monster Sap farm down, but that allows us to get to 2 more Sacred Swords here, grabbing both shields from the opponent. Now, of course, unless they're running something like Play Rough, we can just sponge this energy as well, but the opponent is running Play Rough. That does huge damage, and I'm actually just realizing I think this is a team that Jamie Finn showcased on his channel recently with, I think it was Hippowdon in the back here, but either way, we're going to no shield again here, just sponging the energy as the opponent goes for a Liquidation. Fine with us, we're going straight for the Solar Beam here. Solar Beam is neutral damage in this matchup, but it still gets the one shot, and the opponent is running that Shadow Hippowdon in the back. We still got both shields in play, so probably going to start using them here. Yep, going to use a shield there as they go for a Weather Ball. Honestly, we probably could have lived that, but either way, play it safe, and once again, we can go and full send the Solar Beam, getting the one shot up against Hippowdon. We can swap into our Dragapult, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, leading into Gallade, so a great lead matchup for us. Of course, typical moveset will be fully resisted on the Dragapult if they're running Leaf Blade and Close Combat. They go for Leaf Blade there, which is single resisted, and we could live the next one as well, but I think we're going to shield this just because we're very healthy still. We've got a lot of energy. We actually tried to swap out there, and we swapped straight away. I personally probably would have waited to see what came in, and possibly fired off a Breaking Swipe first, but either way, we swap into our Licky, maybe hoping the opponent will swap eventually, and they do swap, which is huge for us, because actually, both our Charge Moves were resisted. They tried to catch like a Body Slam or something, but it backfires massively as we weren't running Body Slam. We can now fire off back-to-back Shadow Balls, grabbing both shields from the Skeledirge. At this point, definitely going to let the Licky go down, although Disarming Voice won't get the KO, so we swap into our Dragapult, get the snipe there with the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball gets the one shot. They come back in with the Guzzlord. We will make it to a Breaking Swipe once again, and Cobalion can absolutely wall this thing, so this is certainly game over. The opponent goes for the farm down. We've still got a shield, going to come in with the Cobalion, and they instantly recognize there's nothing they can do, so they just concede the match. Into next battle, you can see a Shadow Dragonite in the lead. So once again, swapping into our softer answer there. Gonna go for the Stone Edge here, and this is still a pretty decent matchup with that Stone Edge coverage, grabbing an early shield advantage in this matchup. We are gonna no shield here as the opponent is gonna go and fire off an Aerial Ace, which doesn't do that much damage. We will be able to live another Aerial Ace, assuming this is one, and then fire off another Stone Edge. So we might grab both shields or just put them into farm down range for our Dragapult. Let's wait and see. Stone Edge, number 2, is going to be shielded. They can go for the farm down, which is a bit unfortunate as we're only able to make it to a Sacred Sword. And Sacred Sword, not going to do much damage there, but we do put them into the yellow health range with just resisted moves. Now, we're going to come in with Licky here. We've already seen they are running Aerial Ace and they're also running Liquidation, but they're going to swap into the Shadow Dragonite. We definitely just shield this. We are debuffed in our defense, so even a Dragon Claw would do a fair amount of damage, but we can fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball from this range won't get the KO, but it will put them into farm down range for us to snipe with the Dragapult, get the Astonished farm down there, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. Opponent's going to come back in with the Golisopod, and we're just going to fire off a Breaking Swipe immediately. Looks like that was a CMP tie, which we win, and we get the KO as well, and they've got a Registeel in the back. So, of course, like Giratina, going to completely wall the typical charge moves of a Registeel here, but honestly, from this range, a Zap Cannon probably gets the KO anyways. We're going to no-shield this, and the opponent goes for the Zap Cannon. That does take us out there, and honestly, this is a little bit tricky for us because we're just not dealing much damage whatsoever, especially if they do debuff our attack with a Zap Cannon here. Zap Cannon doesn't drop our attack though, and we are going for the BM here, going for a Solar Beam, and Solar Beam is gonna do like the least amount of damage I've ever seen a Solar Beam deal there. But luckily for us, we do still make it to a Shadow Ball. Maybe that was well calculated, but either way, Shadow Ball gets the KO, and we're able to take that game. So going into next battle, we can see a Tapu Fini in the lead. So of course, fairly neutral matchup here. Both, well, we're gonna resist the Water Gun damage. What's it called? Nature's Madness there is going to hit for super effective damage, so of course, gonna respect it there. Use the shield, full send the Shadow Ball, dealing big damage, getting the Astonished farm down, and we are going to this time stay in with the Dragapult, fire off the Breaking Swipe here. Breaking Swipe is going to grab a shield, and then we swap into Licky. Once again, not so sure about that, especially since our Dragapult was fairly low, but either way, the opponent is going to swap out, but this doesn't really help us as, again, another Pokemon that does completely wall the charge moves, but we go for the Solar Beam. Solar Beam does a lot more damage up against the Drapion than it did up against the Registeel, but either way, not a great matchup for us, but Cobalion can just completely wall the 2 remaining Pokemon here. The opponent is going to fire off an Aqua Tail there, fine with us. We can just let the Licky go down. Going to come in with our Dragapult, basically just forcing the opponent to throw some energy here. Get them slightly lower for our Cobalion to just fully commit to a full double kick farm down, and the opponent's going to bank a lot of energy there. Doesn't really help them though as they come back in with the Guzzlord, and Guzzlord can do literally nothing up against the Cobalion. Just going to fire off back-to-back Sacred Swords immediately here, no messing around, grabbing the final shield, and at this point we're going to no-shield this, as of course the Aqua Tails will hit for neutral damage at least, and the opponent is eventually just going to concede the match as they realise we can go for a full double kick farm down, fire off a Stone Edge, and take out the Drapion. But into next battle, gonna see Drapion here, and the opponent's gonna come in with a Virizion, so obviously not great for us so far. They are, of course, resisting the rollout damage here, but we can fire off a neutral Shadow Ball. It's not going to do much damage, to be honest, but Shadow Ball does connect, and it might put them into the yellow health range by the time they make it to the next charge move. They do actually throw on CMP with the next Shadow Ball, so good timing by the opponent, and unfortunately we do lose CMP there, so still not too bad for us. Depending on if they're running Leaf Blade or Stone Edge as the next charge move here, we might be able to go for a huge Astonished farm down, but the opponent recognizes that, so they swap into their Drapion, and now we can just completely wall them with our Cobalion. The opponent's going to go for a Sludge Bomb, which is definitely not the right play there. I don't know what the other charge move is yet, but you definitely do not want to throw a Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb is double resisted. If they are running Crunch as the other charge move, that's single resisted, so definitely not as bad as a Sludge Bomb, and it is Crunch as the next charge move. They're actually going to drop our defense, but it doesn't really matter at this point as a Sacred Sword from this range does get the KO there. They come back in with Virizion, and they've got a Feraligatr in the back, so we're just going straight for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does connect. I don't know why they didn't shield that. They're not going to throw a charge move either, and at this point, honestly, because we are double resisting the double kick damage, we can probably just go for a full Astonished farm down, go for a double shield here. It looks like we're trying to go for a debuff with the Breaking Swipe, but either way, doesn't really matter. This is game over, and the opponent realizes their mistakes, so they just concede the match. Also, these Snapchat notifications are very distracting. If you are going to submit battles, please put on Do Not Disturb because, I mean, no one needs to see this. But either way, we're going to go for a Solar Beam here. Solar Beam does connect. It does big damage there. It will probably put them into Shadow Ball range. And yeah, I'm not going to blur out any of these messages that are popping up on screen, so that's your job to do if you don't want people to see that. Otherwise, it's going to go out to my audience and everyone can see what people are Snapchatting you or messaging on Discord or whatever. But either way, we flip switch advantage there, which is very handy because we've got Cobalion, which will absolutely destroy an Alolan Sand Slash. The opponent fires off the Ice Punch there. Fine with us, we can fire off a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball going to do some decent damage in this matchup, and they won't be able to Shadow Claw farm us down, so they're going to have to throw another charge move. They do over farm quite well there. But either way, happy to let the Licky Licky go down. We can come in with our Cobalion, and the opponent's going to swap into a Charizard. So of course, Charizard this season going to be slightly slower to make it to those Dragon Claws. I think it is still 5 to the first one, but it will be 5 every single time rather than 5 for 5-4. So slight better for us as we go for the Breaking Swipe, not debuffing their attack, but they don't throw straight away, so we can actually make it to another Breaking Swipe first. Breaking Swipe does debuff their attack this time around, which is very nice. We're still going to shield as a Dragon Claw probably KOs anyways, but we're going to swap into our Cobalion. Maybe catch the charge move here. The opponent does go for the draw on there, but it doesn't matter. We can still go for the double kick farm down, coming out with a Stone Edge loaded. So of course, Stone Edge up against the Charizard. Doesn't matter what HP they're on, it's going to get the one shot, and we're able to take that game. Into next battle, another Shadow Dragonite in the lead. So once again, swapping into our Cobalion here, and the opponent actually stays in. They're going to fire off a Superpower, or at least I think they're going to fire off a Superpower. They do fire off the Superpower there. We're now going to go for a Stone Edge. They're still staying in, so clearly don't have a great response to a Cobalion Say Swap, and they come in with Golisopod. Now, this might actually be the same team that we saw previously, because I'm pretty sure they swapped into Golisopod last time. But either way, I can't remember. I think it was Registeel as the third Pokemon. So either way, going to no-shield this as the opponent goes for Liquidation. Liquidation still doesn't get the KO though, so we can reach a Stone Edge, and Stone Edge from this range does big damage. It puts them into potential farm down range for either Pokemon in the back. I think, yeah, safe play is just to come in with a Licky Licky here, as this isn't going to hit very hard. They actually go for an Aerial Ace there, which is very strange. They're now going to swap into a Shadow Ampharos. I would love to see us go for the Solar Beam once again, but either way, gonna fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will put them into range where we can actually probably Astonish farm down with our Dragapult. They go for Trailblaze there, still staying in with our Licky Licky though, basically just forcing them to throw the energy. They go for the Brutal Swing, and now we can come in with the Dragapult, get the Astonish farm down. If they come back in with Dragonite, I think a Breaking Swipe will get the KO here. So let's see, they come in with the Dragonite. We can just go straight for Breaking Swipe, and is this enough damage to get the one shot? It absolutely is. They come back in with Golisopod. We get the Astonish farm down, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Shadow Machamp in the lead. They say swap into Feraligatr, and again, not really sure why we're staying in with the Dragapult here. We do allow them to make it to a Hydro Cannon, but I guess once again, trying to go for a Breaking Swipe, trying to debuff their attack, and also grab a shield there, and we get both the attack drop and the shield, which is very nice, because now we can come in with our Licky Licky. This is a very comfortable matchup, although they're just going to come back in with the Shadow Machamp, so I think I probably would have just swapped straight away into the Licky Licky. But either way, going to take the next Hydro Cannon, and I would love to see us go for Solar Beam once again, but I think this is the safe play. Going to fire off the Shadow Ball there. Shadow Ball does some decent damage, and we do still make it to a second Shadow Ball here, and Shadow Ball is going to connect. The opponent just fully sacrificing the Machamp, which does make sense. And they're going to come in with a Clefable. Now, the previous Clefable loved to bait, baited every single time. Are they going to bait here? We are sacrificing the Dragapult, and unfortunately, nope, the opponent does just full send a Moonblast. Still a bit of a tricky situation to be in here, because Cobalion doesn't have the best time up against Fairy-type Pokemon, but either way, gonna no-shield, and the opponent is going to full send the Moonblast once again. So this opponent doesn't like to bait here. At this point, they probably will start baiting because we are very low. But either way, going to fire off the Stone Edge, and we're going to swap, go for a very nice combo play there, going for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to grab the final shield from the opponent there. Gonna no-shield this as the opponent goes to Swift. Swift does get the KO, but they swap back into Feraligatr. We do overfarm just slightly, firing off the Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword gets the KO, and we should be able to probably make it to a Stone Edge here. The opponent is going to go for a Swift there. Can we outpace them to the charge move? The answer is yes, we can. We make it to the Stone Edge, and Stone Edge gets the KO, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we see Cobalion in the lead. So great lead matchup for us. The opponent safe swaps into Giratina, so we're going to respond with our Licky Licky here. The opponent going to fire off a Charge Reef, and honestly, these Dragon Claws, they're not going to do much damage whatsoever. We can just continue to overfarm. The opponent throws on very poor timing there, throwing on alignment there, giving us a full rollout in for free, but we also do the exact same thing here. As we realize we're at 100 energy, we kind of need to start throwing here, so definitely should have just gone for one rollout and then thrown the Shadow Ball, but either way, we're still in a good position. They go for another Dragon Claw there. That's still fine with us. We're going to farm to nearly 100 energy before throwing a Charge Reef here, and actually we are going to farm to over 100 energy. Don't really know why we're doing this. I think maybe trying to commit to the farm down and then recognizing we're not quite going to get that full farm down, so instead firing off the Shadow Ball doesn't really matter. We actually give less farm to the Cobalion, so I suppose that play does kind of help us, but not by that much. They still get a decent farm down there. We're going to come in with our Dragapult, going to shield the first charge move as the opponent baits with a Sacred Sword, which is unfortunate, but then they come in with a Mandibuzz. If we get the debuff here, I think this will be game over. Breaking Swipe does drop their attack, and now of course resisting the Snarl damage. These Aerial Aces only going to hit for neutral damage. The debuff, they're not going to do much damage whatsoever. We've got Stone Edge, of course, and we could throw Stone Edge. We might bait, I'm not really sure here. Don't know what the right play is, but either way, we are going to full send the Stone Edge here. Both shields are still in play, and Stone Edge does connect. The opponent tried to call the bait there. It backfires, and now this game should be wrapped up. We're going to fire off the Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword does grab a shield. We can live a Sacred Sword, so going to no-shield this, and then probably eventually swap into our Dragapult. No, actually, we're going to go and fire off our own Sacred Sword. Hopefully grab a shield from the opponent. We do grab that shield, but this should be fine now. At this point, if the opponent doesn't bait, if they full send the Stone Edge, we will be able to commit to a full Astonish farm down. The opponent is just barely able to swap out in time, but it doesn't matter. We make it to back-to-back Breaking Swipes. Breaking Swipe actually gets the KO from that range. We get the Astonish farm down, and we're able to take that game. Into next battle, going to see Ursaring in the lead. So honestly, I probably would just swap into our Licky Licky. I know, of course, they could be running close combat, but either way, we are dealing double resisted fast move damage here. There's no point staying in. They also go for a Trailblaze. I mean, they could have been running Play Rough, but otherwise, everything is resisted there. So I personally wouldn't have shielded the charge move. And now they're boosted, but it is just a Swift, so that is fortunate. But they've got a Shadow Machamp in the back, so definitely not ideal. We can live one charge move, though. So gonna no-shield this as they go for the cross chop, just barely making it to a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will be connecting, dealing some big damage in this matchup. We're going to wait out the switch clock here for a little bit, come in with our Dragapult, and the opponent just settles for a cross chop, which is double resisted. Don't really know why they did that, and that will allow us to go for a full Astonish farm down, and they're going to come back in with the Ursaring. We can actually make it to back-to-back Breaking Swipes here. First one actually gets the KO there, and they've got a Alolan Muck in the back. This is a hard counter with Cobalion, so the opponent just concedes the match. So going into the next battle, and we're going to see a Feraligatr safe swap, and once again staying in here, looking like we want to shield once, and then try and grab a shield back from the opponent whilst firing off a Breaking Swipe, and hopefully fishing for a debuff in the process. So Breaking Swipe does grab that shield, and it does drop their attack once again, so works out fine for us here. We are going to no-shield, as the Tidal Cannons, they're just not going to do much damage whatsoever. Going to no-shield the first one, they will make it to another charge move, but I think we're just going to farm to 100 energy before throwing anything here, and the opponent can actually swap back into their Nidoqueen, so gonna fire off the Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball gonna do less than 50% of their HP, so maybe we could go for a Solar Beam here, but instead just going straight for Shadow Ball number 2. Shadow Ball once again is no shielded, but that's okay. At this point, the opponent is going to fire off a Poison Fang that doesn't get the KO, so instead we swap out, we clear the debuff, and we get the Astonish farm down with our Dragapult, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in with a Wall Rain, so we're just going to fire off a Shadow Ball straight away. Shadow Ball will connect, it does big damage, over 50% of their HP, and can we make it to the Breaking Swipe at the last second? We are able to do so. This should be grabbing a shield here. It does grab the shield, it doesn't drop their attack though, which is unfortunate, but we can come in with our Licky Licky, just force the opponent to throw the energy, as we haven't revealed that we're not running Body Slam yet, and now we can just come in with our Cobalion. We're actually going to no-shield this. I don't know if they've got enough energy for the Earthquake, but it doesn't matter as they don't send it, and now the opponent just concedes the match with the Feraligatr, and we're able to take that game. Into next game, great lead for us as we see a Shadow Golurk in the lead. Honestly, just shield once and we can go for a huge Astonish farm down here. The opponent goes for Shadow Punch. They're probably going to swap out now, and they swap into Virizion, and this is a great matchup for us as well. So going to fire off the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe does drop their attack, which is very nice for us. We can now fire off another Breaking Swipe here. Is it going to debuff their attack once again? Yes, it is going to drop their attack. We might even have a Stone Edge at this point, so going to no shield this, then go for a Leaf Blade. That's fine with us. We can fire off another Breaking Swipe. This won't get the KO here, but the damage is now done. Breaking Swipe does get them very low, doesn't drop their attack this time around, but the opponent going to fire off another Leaf Blade, which still doesn't take us out there. They swap into Tentacle. They do finally take us out there, but that's absolutely okay. We can come in with our Licky Licky here, and the reason we're coming in with Licky Licky is just because obviously rollout is going to be resisted by the Virizion. Cobalion going to have a slightly better time in that matchup, but anyways, we're actually going to swap into Cobalion. Gonna no shield this as the opponent fires off the Scald. Scald does not drop our attack, which is great. We can fire off a Stone Edge, and Stone Edge not gonna do that much damage here, but it hopefully puts them into range where we can just go for resisted double kicks and Sacred Swords to take them out. But either way, gonna no shield once again, and they go for an Acid Spray here. Now this is actually really problematic for us as they've still got their Shadow Go Look. We go for Sacred Sword, we grab a shield anyways, and the combo play coming in with a Licky Licky, firing off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball gets the KO, and we should be looking fine here as we can overfarm in this matchup. Fire off another Shadow Ball into the Tentacle coming back in. Shadow Ball gets the KO here. They come back in with Virizion, and we can just safely shield this up, fire off the charge move. The opponent goes for a Sacred Sword, and just for the sake of it, we're going to go for the Solar Beam BM. So unnecessary, but from about 3 HP remaining, Solar Beam gets the KO up against Virizion, and we take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.